15 minutes. That's all it took for Caitlin Clark's All-Star jerseys to completely vanish from shelves. Both colors gone, priced at $130 each, and fans didn't even hesitate. But here's what nobody's talking about. The people buying these jerseys aren't exactly who you'd think. And the story behind this merchandise explosion, it's way more complicated than anyone wants to admit. The WNBA just had its biggest year ever for merchandise sales. We're not talking about a small bump here. Sales jumped 600% compared to last year. 600% player-specific jerseys and shirts, those skyrocketed 1,000%. Let me put that in perspective for you. Last year, if 100 people bought WNBA gear, this year it was 1,000 people. That's not growth. That's a complete transformation of the entire market. And it all happened seemingly overnight. 1 minute, WNBA merchandise was something you had to actively search for, buried in the back corner of sporting goods stores. The next minute, websites were crashing because too many people were trying to buy the same jersey at the same time. Caitlin Clark's draft night jersey sold out in under an hour, breaking every record fanatics had ever seen. Not just WNBA records, every sport, every draft, ever. She beat everyone. The numbers tell an insane story. Dick's Sporting Goods saw their WNBA merchandise sales jump 233%. The official WNBA store online, 601% increase. Even that orange WNBA logo hoodie that became iconic, sales up 200%. People were buying everything they could get their hands on. Jerseys, hoodies, hats, accessories. If it had a WNBA logo or a player's name on it, it was flying off the shelves. But who exactly is buying all this stuff? That's where things get interesting, because the answer isn't what most people assume. You'd think women are the primary buyers, right? Women supporting women's sports. That's the narrative everyone pushes. Except the data tells a completely different story. Only 44% of WNBA merchandise buyers are women. Let that sink in for a second. More than half of all WNBA fans are men. 75% of men watch women's sports at least a few times a year. And here's the kicker. Men are actually more likely to be frequent viewers than women. 23% of men watch weekly or more, compared to just 15% of women. The demographic that's really driving these sales? Males aged 25 to 39, showing a 52% engagement rate with the league. Young, digital-first, educated, and with money to spend. These fans are also 76% more likely to use streaming platforms than traditional TV. They're engaging on social media, buying from sponsors, and they're 54% more aware of WNBA sponsors than male sports fans in general. From a business perspective, these are dream customers. High income, high engagement, willing to spend money. Brands are fighting each other to get into this space. The top 5 best-selling jerseys reveal something fascinating. Caitlin Clark at number 1, obviously, but then Angel Reese at number 2, Sabrina Ionescu at 3, Kate Martin at 4, and Aja Wilson rounding out the top 5. 3 of those 5 are rookies. That's unprecedented in professional sports. Rookies don't normally dominate merchandise sales. Veterans with championships and MVP awards do, but not this year. This year belonged to the new generation. Clark's impact went beyond just the WNBA. Her jersey became the second best-selling basketball jersey in the entire United States. Not second in women's basketball, second overall across both leagues. The only person who sold more jerseys? Steph Curry. She beat LeBron. She beat Durant. She beat every other NBA star as a rookie in her first professional season. And she was responsible for 26.5% of all WNBA economic activity in 2024. More than a quarter of everything the league generated came from one player. Already, Paige Booker's Dallas Wings jersey is selling strong, and she hasn't even played a single WNBA game yet. The momentum isn't slowing down, it's accelerating. But beneath all these celebration-worthy numbers, there's a darker current running through the league, one that nobody really wants to address head-on. The fan base has gotten noticeably wider since Clark's arrival. The Wall Street Journal pointed this out back in July, and the implications are impossible to ignore. College fans who followed Clark at Iowa brought their viewing habits to the professional level, and they brought their attitudes with them too. Here's where things get uncomfortable. A'ja Wilson is a two-time WNBA MVP. Two-time champion, Olympic gold medalist, NCAA champion. She was Rookie of the Year, won the Naismith College Player of the Year award, and became a New York Times best-selling author before she turned 27. By any objective measure, she's more accomplished than Caitlin Clark. Yet Wilson only got her signature shoe deal with Nike after Clark got hers. And Wilson's deal came with significantly less money and almost no media fanfare. Wilson herself spoke about it, and her words cut deep. She said people can claim it's not about black and white, but to her, it absolutely is. She talked about how black women can be top-notch at what they do, but they're still not seen as marketable. They get swept underneath the rug. And when people deny that race plays a role in who gets celebrated and who gets ignored, it makes her blood boil. The merchandise boom brought visibility, sure, but it also brought something far more sinister: death threats, racial slurs, harassment that went beyond anything the league had seen before. Dejounai Carrington accidentally poked Caitlin Clark in the eye during a playoff game. It was clearly unintentional, just a basketball play gone wrong. But the reaction from certain fans was vicious. Carrington received death threats. She was followed after games. People wanted her hurt, wanted her punished for a split-second accident during a competitive basketball game. Alyssa Thomas, an 11-year veteran of the league, spoke out after Connecticut eliminated Indiana from the playoffs. She said she'd never experienced the level of racial comments that she faced from Indiana Fever fans. Never in 11 years. Think about that. This is a player who's been in the league through its ups and downs, through every era, every controversy, and she'd never seen anything like what happened in 2024. Angel Reese has been dealing with this since her college days. That ring finger gesture she made after beating Iowa in the 2023 championship, it changed her life forever, and not in a good way. She received threats, racist attacks, constant harassment online and in person. She spoke about how the media benefited from her pain, how she was villainized to create a narrative that would drive engagement and clicks. For 2 years, she allowed it to happen because she didn't know how else to handle it. And now, other players in the league are experiencing the same treatment. Caitlin Clark found herself in an impossible position. She didn't ask for any of this. She didn't encourage racist behavior, but people were using her name to justify their hatred anyway. Finally, she spoke out. She said nobody in the league should face racism, hateful comments, or threats. She called these people what they are: trolls, not fans. She made it clear that people shouldn't be using her name to push racist agendas. It's disappointing, she said. It's not acceptable. But some people wanted her to do more. Dejounai Carrington criticized Clark for not being more vocal, for staying off social media, and claiming she doesn't see the comments. How can someone not be bothered by their name being used to justify racism, bigotry, misogyny, and hate? It's a fair question. Clark's response was that basketball is her job, and she can't control what happens outside of that. She's not going to spend time thinking about things she can't control. Sue Bird, the legendary point guard who retired after 19 seasons, offered crucial perspective. She said racism has been impacting the WNBA long before Caitlin Clark arrived. This isn't new. What's new is that other people are finally noticing it. Bird believes Clark is being used as a pawn, that she didn't bring racism to the league. It was already there. The shock isn't that racism exists in the WNBA. The shock is that people are surprised by it. Bird also defended Clark's fans, making an important distinction. Not all Fever fans are the problem. Not all Clark supporters are racist trolls. The issue is the faction within that group pushing hate, creating divisiveness, acting as fans while promoting destructive agendas. Those are the people who need to be called out and removed from the conversation. Even the WNBA commissioner fumbled the response. Kathy Engelbert gave an interview where she was asked about the darker, more menacing tone in discourse around the league. Instead of outright condemning racism, she talked about how rivalries can bring attention to the WNBA. The backlash was immediate. The players' union expressed disappointment. Eventually, Engelbert sent a letter to players admitting she missed the mark. The league issued a statement saying they won't tolerate racist, derogatory, or threatening comments. But the damage was done. Meanwhile, the business side kept exploding. Attendance jumped 48%, hitting 2.35 million fans, the highest number in 22 years. There were 154 sellouts, a 242% increase from the previous season. Viewership averaged over 1 million people across 22 nationally televised games. The All-Star Game pulled in 3.4 million viewers, up 305% from the year before. New sponsors flooded in. Coach became the official handbag partner. Sephora signed a multi-year deal with the Golden State Valkyries. Beauty brands that never touched women's sports before, suddenly they all wanted in. Bumble, the dating app. Opill, the birth control brand. Kim Kardashian's Skims, the honeypot company. Brands saw an opportunity to reach young, educated, affluent consumers who actually pay attention to sponsors and buy from them. Franchise values shot up 180% in a single year. Teams that were barely profitable suddenly became valuable assets. The league secured a massive new media rights deal with Disney, Amazon, and NBC, with room for 2 more packages that could bring in an additional $60 million annually. The WNBA had arrived as a legitimate business entity, not just a side project of the NBA. So here's where we are. WNBA merchandise is selling out at record rates. The league has never been more visible, more profitable, or more culturally relevant. Players are becoming household names, getting signature shoe deals, signing endorsement contracts that previous generations could only dream about. The future looks bright from a pure numbers perspective. But success revealed fractures that were always there, just hidden beneath the surface. Questions about who gets celebrated and why. Questions about race, marketability, and whether accomplishment actually matters as much as we pretend it does. Questions about what kind of fans the league wants to cultivate and what behavior it's willing to tolerate in exchange for growth. Every jersey sale is a transaction, sure, but it's also a statement about who we value, who we protect, who we're willing to defend, and who we'll throw under the bus for engagement. The WNBA's merchandise boom is real, transformative, and potentially sustainable. But whether the league can address the uncomfortable truths that came with it, that's the question nobody seems ready to answer. The jerseys will keep selling. The question is, at what cost?